Cooper's Pen residents demand relocation after demolitions. Residents displaced by the demolition of houses in Cooper's Pen, Trelawney, say temporary tents and emergency supplies are not enough. They want permanent relocation. Approximately 20 houses were reportedly flattened during Tuesday's pre-dawn demolition exercise. Some residents claimed they had occupied the privately owned property for decades and were not given adequate notice before heavy equipment arrived. A peaceful protest was held on Wednesday as residents called on the government or the landowner to provide alternative accommodation. Government agencies have since been deployed to address the immediate humanitarian needs of approximately 40 affected families. Assistance reportedly include tents, cots, mattresses, solar lights, bottled water, food, toiletries, and sanitary supplies. The office of the Prime Minister stressed that the demolition resulted from a long-running private land dispute and that the government was not involved in the underlying matter. However, it has promised to coordinate additional assistance, particularly for children, senior citizens, and people with disabilities. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security is expected to return to the community on Friday to provide further support. Despite the intervention, residents say they will continue protesting until a clear relocation plan is presented. Teachers await revised wage offer. The Jamaica Teachers Association is expecting to receive a formal wage proposal from the government by Friday. JTA President Mark Balava said progress was made during negotiations with the Ministry of Finance on Tuesday, including an improvement in one major area of concern. However, the association has asked the ministry to reconsider another component of the proposed compensation package. Once the offer is received in writing, it is expected to be presented to the JTA's members or delegates next week. They will ultimately decide whether the association should accept the proposal or continue negotiating. Malabva said many educators remain dissatisfied with their salaries and conditions of service, maintaining that teachers must be compensated in keeping with the value and importance of their work. The negotiations come just weeks before the start of the new academic year. The JTA president has also raised concerns that some schools, particularly those in Western Jamaica, may not be ready to receive students in September because repair work remains incomplete. 4 killed in 2 separate road crashes. Jamaica's road safety crisis is again under scrutiny after 4 people were killed in 2 separate traffic collisions on Wednesday. 2 people died following a crash in Discovery Basin, and while 2 men were killed in a separate 2-vehicle collision along the New Forest Main Road in South Manchester. The latest deaths have pushed the number of people killed on the nation's roads to 199 since the beginning of the year. Up to Wednesday, the fatalities had resulted from 172 crashes. The number of road deaths remains 16% below the figure recorded over the corresponding period last year. That represents 39 fewer lives lost, but officials warn that the present toll remains unacceptably high. Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, is again appealing to motorists to reduce their speed and exercise greater caution. Police investigations into the latest fatal crashes are continuing. Sherwin Williams ends Jamaican paint production. Sherwin Williams has ended paint manufacturing at its White Mark facility in St. Catherine, bringing more than half a century of local production to a close. The company will instead rely on imported products to supply the Jamaican market. The decision represents a significant shift from one of the country's best-known paint brands and had triggered concern about the wider future of domestic manufacturing. Local production creates employment and supports companies involved in the packaging, transport, maintenance, and the supply of raw materials. Replacing production with imports may therefore affect more than the factory's direct workforce. The development also comes as Jamaican manufacturers continue to contend with high energy costs, imported inputs, transportation expenses, and competition from overseas producers. Further details are awaited concerning the number of workers affected and the company's long-term plans for its Jamaican operations. Debate erupts over children found with firearms. A parliamentary committee remains divided over whether children found in simple possession of firearms or ammunition should become eligible for Jamaica's child diversion program. Opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, Isaac Buchanan, wants firearm possession added to the list of offenses that may be addressed through diversion. Buchanan argued that some children are manipulated or coerced by adults into carrying and hiding illegal weapons. He said diversion could provide rehabilitation and prevent these children from being burdened with lifelong criminal records. Committee Chairman Delroy Chuck and other members expressed concern that automatic eligibility could be exploited by criminals who deliberately use children to transport firearms. Chuck argued that judges should retain the discretion to consider the circumstances of each case, including the child's intentions and whether an adult was involved. The existing legislation already allows a court to refer a child to diversion for an offense outside the scheduled list when it considers that outcome to be in the interest of justice. The committee did not reach a consensus on the proposed amendment. Tropical Storm Cristobal forms in the Atlantic. Tropical Storm Cristobal has formed in the Atlantic Ocean, placing sections of the Eastern Caribbean on alert. Forecasters indicated that tropical storm or hurricane watches could become necessary for some islands as the system moves across the Atlantic. Jamaica was not under a tropical storm watch or warning at the time of this report. However, residents are being encouraged to continue monitoring official forecasts because tropical systems can change in strength, speed, and direction. The hurricane season remains active, and Jamaicans are advised to review emergency plans, secure important documents, and ensure essential supplies are available. Updates should be obtained from the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, and the National Hurricane Center. Repairs planned for 101 hurricane damage health centers. The government says the second phase of its hurricane health response program will include repairs to 101 health centers. State Minister in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Crystal Lee, said design briefs for all the facilities are now complete. The next stage will involve preparing bills of quantities, with tendering expected to begin between late September and October on a phased basis. The program is focused on restoring damaged infrastructure, improving resilience, and advancing wider health system reform following Hurricane Melissa. Western parishes, including St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Trelawney, Hanover, Manchester, and St. James, were among the areas most severely affected by the Category 5 hurricane. The Western Regional Health Authority has also received reproductive health supplies and specialized midwifery kits to help maintain maternal and newborn care during emergencies. Health officials say the objective is not simply to replace what was damaged, but to build facilities capable of withstanding future disasters. Subscribe to Jamaica News Now, turn on your notifications, and share this roundup with someone who needs to stay informed. I'm your host. Thank you for watching, and have a safe and productive day.